Hey guys, my name's Eric Schmiel, and welcome back to VEDA, the thing that happens every day, but I only do sometimes, cause, hey, cut me some slack, I've been sick. I'm back home in Richmond, Virginia, back from my big 8-day trip to the West Coast, and naturally, my favorite thing to do on when traveling is to have an existential crisis. So let's talk about that. You know, it's just normal to walk around a place and think, what is this? What does this mean to me? Do I want to live here? Is this what I want to be doing with my life? How do I relate to this, right? And it's not a very, I guess, popular or common idea, I guess, but to me, a place is just a place. A lot of cities feel alike to me. Even foreign countries. I went to Germany and it felt very much like Virginia to me. The biggest difference being street signs. But yeah, likewise, it didn't seem so much to matter that it was the West Coast. All that mattered was that I was in a large city. San Francisco was just as dirty and like grungy and busy and full of stuff as any other city I've been to. And same with Portland and Seattle, really. And I think a large part of that was just because of how little time I actually spent in each one of these cities. I only had 24 hours in San Francisco, 22 hours in Portland, and like 30 hours in Seattle. And, that's just enough to get a quick walkthrough, not necessarily a great way to get to know the city, to get to know the place. And so I kind of think maybe I won't really get to fully understand the vibe of a town until I live there for a period. Yeah. The big thing I always think of, the thing that kind of struck me was that the West Coast and that these large, great cities, they didn't really have anything to offer me more than my hometown has. All I really need is a town with a lot of cool, interesting, like cultural things that are happening, and a strong creative community that I can be a part of and help grow in and thrive in. And I have that here in Richmond. I really do. And beyond that, I don't really need much else other than being able to actually afford to live where I live. So in that regard, the West Coast is nice, but doesn't really have anything for me. Be nice to go back again someday. The biggest difference was the countryside. Everything's so lush and green here in Virginia, and you don't appreciate that till you go to somewhere that's surrounded by hills of dead yellow grass, as far as the eye can see. And, the Northwest was much more lush and much more green, but still, it was green with patches of dirt, I guess, when going up through the mountains to get to Portland. That country, more than anything, was what felt different. But the towns themselves, a city's a city. Yeah. The one thing I really did like, and I noticed this too with the 48-hour film project, was I came back feeling like I did something great, that I felt slightly euphoric, like this is awesome, I want to do this all the time. And that feeling, I'm pretty sure it didn't come from being in those cities, it didn't come from those places. I think it came from the rapid fire pace I was living my life at, because it was very similar feeling that I got after doing the 48-hour film project. I think what I really want is to just be living my life that fast constantly. I like the idea of having some kind of project, having some kind of thing that I'm involved in that takes like every fiber of my being and that my life revolves around. And I like being exhausted, and I like running fast, and I like not getting enough sleep because I'm doing something that I feel like matters, right? So with the West Coast trip, I was literally climbing into a town, going straight to my hostel, dropping my bags, running out to see the place, seeing as much as I could, hobble back into my bed at night, fall asleep, wake up, grab my bags, pack them up, run off to the next city, nonstop, not even barely an hour to breathe, if that. And it was just always go. And the same thing with the 48-hour film project. We had the kickoff at 7 p.m. We went straight to like a brainstorming session. I got home around 11 o'clock that night. I wrote a script until like 6 in the morning, got an hour and a half of sleep, woke up, went straight to the shooting location, directed, got all that stuff done, came home, maybe slept for an hour or two, then got right on to editing, and it just kept this constant pace where I was exhausting myself, but I was engaged. I was engaged in what I was doing, engaged in something that felt worthwhile. And it's like all the rest of my life I've just been asleep. But these weekends, these periods, these projects, that's when I'm actually alive. And I want that. I want that in my daily life. And I think whether it's traveling or movie making, the thing almost doesn't matter. It's the pace I want. And there's a sense that maybe that pace does exist a bit more in these big cities. But I think I can create that for myself here too. The final thing I'll say is that there is a bit of a self-consciousness living in such a small city as Richmond that, I don't know, there's a feeling that, like, the things that are really happening, the big stuff, the things that matter, are happening in these larger, busier cities. And a little, I think it's a little ridiculous to feel this way, but somewhere deep down inside, I feel like, like, it's hard to say you're doing much in a town like this, I guess. You don't feel like you're really tackling the big stuff unless you're in a major city. Unless you're in that kind of rapid fire pace of a town. And part of me feels like it doesn't have much to offer me, but I feel like I owe it to myself to put myself in that environment for a period. Maybe not my whole life, but to maybe at least spend a year or two living in that kind of environment and those kind of cramped corners and those kinds of run-walk pace. So I feel a weird sense of obligation to live in a big city. I don't know. I can't think of anything that a town like that can offer me that I don't already have, except at a higher price. But I feel like I should be a part of it for a little bit, at least, at some point. So yeah. Over the next couple days, I think I'm going to detail each leg of the trip in like more detail. Yeah, details and details. Oh my. Yeah. So like tomorrow, I'll probably talk about San Francisco. The next day, Portland, and then the third day, Seattle. So if you want to hear about the trip, stay tuned. And that's my thing for the day. Sorry, it's been a little bit. I got sick, and then I still been sick by the time I got home, and I just kind of got home and went straight to work, trying to cram in like a full work week in the half week I had. So I've been busy. Anyways, see y'all tomorrow. Have a good one.